Okay, excellent. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Zeiton. I call to order the Groundwater Advisory Committee meeting of June 21st, 2023. This open meeting of Groundwater Advisory Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law March 29th, 2023. All members of the Groundwater Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The Act allows Groundwater Advisory Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comments. I want to confirm that the participants of the committee are here. When I call your name, please answer in the affirmative. Bryant?
Present.
Diane? You're muted. And are we missing somebody? Fred?
I'm here.
No, we have
Bryant, Diane, and you. That's what we got.
I forgot about myself. And myself, Anthony Zeiton, is here. Tonight, we have two permits. The first one to consider the petition for SAL 305 to 309 Main Street LLC for special permit with the site plan approval for the purpose of converting the existing restaurant to serving ice cream and beverages to walk-up and drive-through customers in Groundwater Protection Overlay District Area 3. The property is located at 305-309 Main Street, map 47, parcel 7 and 8 in the Groundwater Protection Overlay District Area 3. So who's here from the applicant?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Despite the label, I'm not actually James Venacasa. That's just the first working deck station we found. I'm actually James Tadro from Azimuth Land Design. And I'm here representing the applicant for the redevelopment of 305-309 Main Street, all of which the property is in Groundwater Overlay District 3. And we're here asking for a special permit for this use. And I want to just, the quickest explanation, I think, of the status here is that we're going to make a big improvement to this site where, yes, we are going to increase the total amount of impervious cover on the property, but right now there is no drainage collection and there is no infiltration of the runoff on that site. It essentially has to puddle and then flow out via the culvert under Route 20. We will be installing a drainage system, which is going to capture all of the runoff from the impervious surfaces on site. It's all going to be directed through a CDS stormwater filtration unit, which will have 116 gallons of oil capacity in it should there be a spill. And after passing through that stormwater filtration unit, the runoff will be directed to an infiltration structure containing 24 precast concrete modules, 8 foot by 8 foot by 38 inches high. I mean, this is a very significant structure, and that's off in the northeast corner of the, I guess you'd say, of the proposed parking towards the East Main Street frontage of the site. And so all of the impervious surface, whereas now there is no capture and no infiltration, all of the runoff from the impervious surface is going to be captured. It's all going to go through a CDS model 2025 unit, which has great oil storage capacity. It's all then directed to this infiltration structure where I was just running the number a few minutes ago. And at least through a 1-inch storm, you would have no outflow from this structure. In the 2-year storms and bigger, you start to get outflow, and by the 100-year storm, you're not getting a great amount of outflow compared to what comes in. But in all the small storms, you will actually get capture and infiltration of that runoff after it's been filtered. So I think our basic point to the committee is we're actually making a significant improvement over what's there. It's actually, in the broadest sense, a continuation of the existing use of previous use of restaurant, but we're going to significantly improve it. And I won't even get into all the landscaping and whatnot that's being done on this site, but simply looked at in the terms of drainage and the quality of that runoff, it's going to be significantly improved. And that's, I think, is our position to the committee, and I'll try and answer any questions.
Okay. Fred, comments?
A couple. I prepared a letter, which I regret that I had to send to you all late this afternoon. I did get it to James yesterday, maybe, or was it this morning? Forget, it's been a little blurry lately. The letter, if you want to go by item, James is correct. The plan is a significant improvement over what's there. The reason that it's looking for a site plan special permit is because they're adding a drive-through to an existing building that was a restaurant use. That triggers the site plan review, I believe. Otherwise, it might have been allowed by right. But where they're proposing more than 10 parking spaces and the drive-through, they needed a site plan approval. What is being proposed in terms of the parking lot runoff is a significant improvement in the drainage and water quality that could be expected. There is no filing proposed with Conservation Commission. Some of you may be aware that there's a culvert that leaves this property and goes under Route 20. The other side of Route 20 is where the wetland starts, and that 100-foot buffer zone is not impacted by the development of this property. They're not actually doing any work in the 100-foot buffer zone, so therefore it didn't go to conservation. They do have proposed on-site septic and an on-site well, so there's no other public utilities. Route 20 is a state highway, so we're working through a Mass DOT access permit. But in terms of the application, on my letter, the first thing that stands out is that I didn't see, and I apologize, James, if it was in there in the package, is the items that are required in section 707 D4A 1 through 5, which outlines if there's going to be any toxic or hazardous materials, where they're going to be stored, analysis by a technically qualified expert saying that you're not going to degrade the underground water in any way. Pretty simple, straightforward. That stuff's supposed to come with every application for a special permit under groundwater, and I didn't see it in there. So again, I apologize if it was in there and I missed it.
No, a mission on our part. We are not going to have any such materials on site, but we did not state that specifically to you.
The reason, well, one, because it's required as a condition of approval or application for a special permit. All applications supposed to have it. But two, the building inspector's zoning interpretation form indicated 2 areas in the bylaw that you needed to apply for the special permit. One was section 707-010 D3C3 and 5. 5 is the one that says any commercial activity that's going to have an accessory storage, involve accessory uses, the manufacture, storage, application, transportation, and or disposal of toxic or hazardous materials, provided there shall be no on-site disposal of any waste. It goes on. And there, all of that is required. He required it in the zoning interpretation because it wasn't clear if you're going to have cleaning chemicals for the countertop area that would be in excess of normal household use. If your statement is submitted in accordance with my first comment, that will cover that. And so the special permit that you will be seeking from the ZBA will be in regards to the other portion of that zoning interpretation indicating 707-010 C3C, C3, D3C3. That talks about commercial development on lots within a groundwater 3 area. And that has all the standards that are outlined in the next comment, most of which appear to be met when looking at the plan. Site plan and drainage plan appears to meet these requirements, but no information regarding the capacity of the on-site sewer septic system was provided. I know it's been there. I'm assuming it's less than the 220 gallons per 10,000 square feet that the bylaw allows. We just need to get that confirmed. And then I'd like to see it, if the project's approved, have the outline of the septic system shown on the final as-built plan so that any details to do with the site is available to somebody looking at the as-built plans. So you don't have to look at several iterations of plans for different things.
Sure, and just quick, I forwarded over a copy of the old initial septic system plan.
Yeah.
And it's listed as being a design for 420 gallons a day, which is actually well in excess of what this facility will use.
Yeah, I think it would be allowed up to 960 or 80 or
something much beyond that. And we did add, per your and the town planner's comments to the most recent set of site plans dated June 16th, the location of the leaching area over on the part that's actually 305 Main Street, closer to Bartlett Street, to that corner. It's off in that area.
Okay.
So we addressed.
Yep. And then I don't know the Title V well enough, but I'm sure that the Board of Health agent can tell us that the size system you have is adequate for the use of the building. Since there are no seats, it's a kind of a difficult thing to nail down, but you do have some employees, so there must be some minimal requirement.
Yeah, there's even in any sort of use where you're just going by employees there, you can say 20 gallons a day per employee, where it's where you say there's a cafeteria, and we're gonna, I guess, assume these people could be eating inside here. And it'd be 15 gallons a day otherwise. We'll assume they're eating inside here.
I don't think there's room in there for 40 employees, so I'm pretty sure you're going to be okay.
Yes.
My next comment was that the perimeter of the parking lot should be equipped with a bituminous concrete berm. I saw it labeled on most of the parking lot. I wasn't sure if it went all the way around, but I think it's necessary for the drainage to work properly. And if it's not clear enough on there, if you could make some changes, otherwise, let me know if there's some area where you don't think it's necessary, but with the drainage system you have, we want to capture it all and get it into that water quality separator.
Yep.
My next comment is the proposed impervious cover needs to be confirmed on impervious cover calculation sheet, which James did send over to me this afternoon. I didn't get a chance to look at it that closely, but the one thing that popped out to me was that you said that the existing parking lot was 12,000 square feet, and I wanted to make sure that you weren't taking credit for the gravel as being existing previous pavement. So it was just where there's actual pavement is what you're indicating.
I think we were fair. We went to a point, varying distance to the east side of the existing building, about 70 feet on average, 65, 70 feet. Then there's broken pavement beyond that, but we didn't count that.
Okay. And for all of you, what I typically do, and the building inspector and I have been doing this for many years, is that any rooftop area or parking lot area that's properly captured, treated, and then put back into the ground, it's subtracted from the impervious cover calculation. And so only that portion of the impervious cover building or parking that's not captured, treated, and infiltrated is counted towards the 15% increase in the limit. So since James said everything was being captured and treated, there should be zero going forward. So they have 15% of whatever's left. I wanted a couple of permeability tests for the infiltration area prior to the building permit, just so that we can verify the assumptions in the design are present when you go to actually build it, before they go too far. Then at the same time, we can document the groundwater elevation at the location of the infiltration areas to make sure the 2 feet is there. I know your soils said that it was 70 or 90 inches down, but I was having a little trouble trying to determine what height was of the whole system and then what's left below the grade. So I'm sure we can confirm that at the same time you do the permeability test. The long-term plan shall be revised to confirm it meets with Mass DP Stormwater Handbook, kind of a catch-all. The long-term plan shall be submitted for review, maintenance plan shall be submitted for review and approved by the town engineer or whoever the DPW director decides who that should be. And then a final set of plans verifying any changes are necessary shall be done after the approval is written so that we make sure that everything is combined and has one revision date. The limits of the septic system we talked about, the as-built plan is very standard. And then the next comments are really to the applicant indicating some other things that not necessarily pertain to groundwater, but will be required for the site plan review. So let's talk about the conditions that I already outlined, see if the committee has any questions about those or any other questions about the project before we go on to anything that's not groundwater related.
Just one question for me is, so there seems to be a whole lot of follow-up here. Is that something you're going to manage, Fred, or somebody?
Yeah, I will. The building inspector as a zoning enforcement officer ends up being the person who's responsible for making sure the site plan approval is adhered to once the project is actually approved, if it's actually approved.
Right.
And then that will be done with staff, and Lori and Bob will make sure that happens. I will be around for some period of time until the position is filled to take that over. So I believe nothing will get lost in the shuffle.
I don't have any questions. Other board members?
The only, Brian Furman, the only question I had was whether there's a grease trap from the restaurant still there as part of the septic system on site.
That's a good question. I have to say, I don't know for sure the answer there. I don't think there's any intention of the fare being offered needing it, but I have to say I don't know off the top of my head if it's still there.
I'm not sure you'd need it either. I was just wondering if there was a tank around there, or they just had an under the sink type of collection device.
Oh, as far as I know, it's an under the sink one, if there is one. There are a few different septic tanks and a pump chamber in front of the building, between the building and Route 20.
Okay, yeah.
And that pumps up to the leaching area that's sort of over by the corner of Bartlett and Route 20. But I didn't see any indication in anything about a grease trap structure there in front. So it must be in the building, if anywhere.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that would fall under the Board of Health's review. So when they're confirming that the septic system is designed adequately for the number of employees working inside the building, because there's no seating, there's no patrons inside the building. It's all walk up or drive through. That would be something that they would confirm if it's necessary and if it needs to be inside or outside. I know when it's on town sewer, we like to have it outside the building so that it's accessible when the business is in an operation. But I'm not quite sure how it works with a septic system. And again, I'm not sure if it's required for washing ice cream dishes. Okay, so there's no other questions about the groundwater part. We can talk about these last few comments that I had. Wanted to make sure that you're aware that I did view this as a improvement to the site. I think the drainage system is much needed at this location and will be a welcome addition to the parking lot. The site is slightly larger than an acre, but I don't believe you're disturbing an acre of land in order to meet the land disturbance permit bylaw. So you will be required to get an earthworks permit, which has much of the same conditions, but not as complicated a operation and maintenance and post-construction requirements. Thirdly, there was a draft plan at the time I was doing my review that indicated some changes as a result of the technical review done with the planning board. There was a lot of concern and discussion about pedestrian access through the site and vehicles and any possible conflicts. And there was a meeting with staff after that meeting with the planning board, and then some options were discussed. There was a draft shown that I sent to all of you, and then I think today, maybe yesterday, I received a set of revised plan dated June 16th, which incorporated some of those things that were on the draft, and then a few others that were made to improve the maneuverability within the site. My feeling is that one of the main things that was done was to take the drive-through lane from the back of the building, and instead of bringing it over to the curb cut on Route 20, to have a dedicated place where it goes out onto Route 20 and avoid any other conflicts with pedestrians or other cars coming in and out. That was an improvement. I did have a question about whether that left turn should be allowed coming out of that drive-through because it's so close to where people might be making a left turn to turn into the property. But again, it's state highway, and if they allow it, I suppose we don't have any choice. We could try to restrict it, but my experience has been that if we try to restrict it and Mass DOT doesn't want to allow that restriction, they don't have to, and the applicant can work with them on that. But my recommendation to the DOT will be that that left turn not be allowed. I do think the site's appropriately set up so that people could enter that small portion of Bartlett Street, get onto East Main Street and come in what's technically the back of the property off of East Main Street and get into line for ice cream or parking, walk over to get ice cream quite nicely without using the driveway to Route 20. It could even be set up as right in and right out on Route 20 and then in and out both on East Main Street in the back, but I will defer to Mass DOT to see what they want to come up with for that. That's pretty much it. I know Anthony was at the meeting with the planning board when all of this was discussed about internal traffic flow with pedestrians and vehicles, and his opinion and his thoughts on these changes might be something we could hear from, and then really the decision will be up to the ZBA next week on where they're at with that.
Yeah, I think that there could be a high level of congestion and kind of conflict with cars coming in and out, but definitely any improvements to that be good. And like you said, if we can't control what's going on Route 20, especially that left turn, I think is going to be tricky. But that's beyond kind of this board's purview, and the ZBA can determine what they think is best for the site.
Yep, they did propose some dedicated crosswalks within the parking lot, which kind of make it clear. There are some rumble strips in areas where drivers are alerted to crosswalks ahead of them. Again, people are traveling fairly slowly, I would hope and expect, through a parking lot like this, and that everyone can remain diligent on keeping an eye out for pedestrians. It's not that big, so it's not a lot of time to build up speed coming across there. So I think what we have before us is pretty good. I would tweak that left turn exit at least, possibly if I could. And then I know there was some discussion about peer review for traffic analysis of the internal traffic flow. My opinion is it's not necessary, especially with these improvements that were amendments that were made. So I'm good with the plan. As long as we get this information prior to the ZBA meeting for item number 1, and I will confirm the impervious cover calculation too prior to the Tuesday's meeting with the ZBA. And I don't think there's anything else to discuss from my end, and see what y'all want to do.
Diane, did you have anything?
Fred covered it in the traffic part of it. Any questions? Can you hear me or not?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So I guess with this, I would say, do I have a motion to recommend the conditions set forth by the town engineer for the special permit, if approved by the ZBA, for 305, 309 Main Street. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Brian,
aye.
Ann,
Yes.
and I, Anthony, am an aye.
And that was a recommendation to approve with conditions if the ZBA chooses to approve the project, issue the
Yeah.
special permit.
We try not to put the word approve in there, I think, but just that if they do, that the conditions are added or considered in the application approval.
Recommend the following conditions be added to any approval. Got it.
I want to thank you all for your time. Wish you all a good evening, and I'll be seeing some of you again at some meetings.
We'll see you on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night.
The other project that was on the agenda has asked for a continuation. We can discuss it briefly, but they're not here, so I don't want to go into a whole lot of discussion. The other project is 129 Maple Street. I don't know if some of you may be familiar with it. There was a multifamily building that burned down a little less than a couple of years ago. The applicant is a new owner of the property and wants to rebuild 5-unit multifamily structure there. And the question that we're working towards is that there was some when the transfer happened, there was a plan put on record at the registry that combined the 3 parcels into one. We're trying to get confirmation on whether or not that perimeter plan that the applicant submitted and got recorded constitutes a change and eliminates the grandfathering protection, because all 3 of these parcels were in existence in the form that they were in just before he bought it, prior to the adoption of the groundwater overlay. If that's the case, then the parcel that he wants to build the 5-unit on, he would be allowed to, even though it's not 40,000 square feet. And then one of the other lots could actually become a single family home because it also has enough land area and frontage on a public street to satisfy a single family home that also was in existence in 1986 before the bylaw was adopted. The question is, did the perimeter plan eliminate his grandfathered pre-existing protection? And we're waiting for final word on that from town council. Town council spoken to the applicant's attorney. They are going back and forth and trying to determine legally which parcel have to be considered for the permit. And because that wasn't available for tonight and may not be available for the ZBA meeting on Tuesday, he asked to continue your meeting to July. So my recommendation would be that we send a letter to the ZBA saying that they asked for a continuation to July and request that they continue their meeting to July till we can get an opinion from town council on the pre-existing status of the property.
Sounds complex.
Piece of cake.
Good.
The bottom line is he has the ability to do something. It's just a matter of how much. He was asking for a new 5-unit multifamily building, but the multifamily building was slightly bigger than the 5-unit multifamily building that burned down. So under the groundwater, under the rest of the zoning bylaw outside the groundwater portion, that's considered an expansion of the use because he's making the building bigger. In terms of what we're looking at under the groundwater portion of the zoning bylaw, as long as he maintains the 5 bedrooms and no more, then he would be able to rebuild the building. Then the size of the building is really more under the purview of the ZBA and their part of the zoning bylaw rather than the groundwater portion. So I just need to know what size lot so we can calculate the impervious cover and then say recharge the rest and you'll be okay. But I think it's fine from from your requirements. It's just a matter of which portion of the bylaw we're going to apply based upon the size of the lot that he's actually has the ability to work on.
So how many lots are in that whole parcel?
Well, there's 3 parcels. I don't know that I would call them all lots because they're different
Okay.
sizes. 2 of them are in excess of 20,000. I think one is 29, one is 21, and one is maybe 11,000. So altogether, there's just about 50,000 square feet. 22, 29, 40, 50, yeah, maybe 51, 52,000, something like that. So there's enough because the bylaw says a multifamily, if it was new, had to have 40,000 in a groundwater area too. And single family doesn't have it has enough land area for that, I think.
And so I don't recall, does he need 2 of those parcels to build on the multifamily or is
Well,
it
it
where it is?
depends. It depends.
on what happens? Yeah,
If
okay.
the lots are grandfathered in their original configuration,
Yeah,
then it doesn't matter because multifamily is allowed by special permit with no specific area requirement,
okay,
except with the groundwater. But if the groundwater is protected and pre-existing, if he's pre-existing the groundwater, then that portion of the bylaw doesn't apply. So while I think overall it would be okay, I just need to know what section of the bylaw we're saying it's okay with. And I don't know that as we sit here today. So,
do we need to move to continue that?
well, it's not technically a public hearing, but
No?
you could, I would say, I'm going to recommend to the ZBA that they continue their public hearing because the applicant did not appear before you, so you could make a recommendation to them. If you agree with that, you can make a motion to that effect if you like.
Okay. So I recommend that the ZBA move their meeting to July with 129 Maple Street. And yes, is that a motion?
Yeah.
I make
Yeah.
a motion that we recommend the ZBA move their date or meeting date for 129 Maple Street to July.
Continue their public hearing to their July meeting to allow the applicant to appear before the groundwater committee for a proper recommendation and review.
Right. Thank you.
Hopefully Melanie will get all that in the minutes, or I'll have to recreate it.
You need a second,
Yes.
second. There,
So was it moved? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, okay, and it's a roll call vote. Diane
yes.
and Brian
Yes.
and Anthony is a yes.
So that only leaves a couple things. One is to review the minutes of May 16th, and 2, to talk about the next meeting dates.
Okay.
So we can do the minutes first if you like.
Yeah, do you everybody read the minutes from May 16th?
Among other things, I think I did.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from May 16th?
So moved.
Second.
Let's roll call vote. Diane,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and Anthony is a yes.
Excellent. And then I was prepared to say that you didn't have to meet in July, but that just went out the window. So the regular meeting date would be July 11th, which would be the second Tuesday. If the 3 of you are available and agreeable to that. If not, the ZBA meeting in July will be on the 25th. I think the planning board is meeting on the 18th. So if you don't want to meet on July 11th, we have to find another night. And I will,
Well, I don't know. So It worked, it's okay for me, but Diane Bryant.
I'm fine.
Works with me.
are we
So
doing
July 11th, if we get the information that we need, we
Yeah.
will tentatively schedule for then. Owen, does that look like it would work for you?
Yep, that'll work for me.
Okay. I'm not sure if it'll be me or not, but it may be. I did get confirmation from town council that the groundwater committee should continue to meet. That's the most prudent course of action until the Attorney General's office approves that article, at which point then staff will just do the review and send it on to the SPGA, whoever that may be. But until then, just going to keep doing what we've been doing just in case there's ever an appeal. We want to make sure that we follow the bylaw that was technically in place at the time.
Okay.
So
What time? on
11th.
7th?
Go
What time? 5 or 6?
Well, I know 5 o'clock was rather tight for you, so it could be 6 o'clock. Whatever is the preference of the three of you, and then you know what? I might have to leave that TBD for now because I believe that the Board of Health meets on the second Tuesday of the month as well, and they usually start around 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Yep.
And that may be a conflict for Teresa. So we might, maybe if they're meeting, then we might, have a little flexibility and meet later. If they're not meeting that night, we could meet earlier. If anybody has an absolute time that you need to meet after. I know 5 o'clock was tight for you, Anthony. So the earliest that's good for you is what?
6 works better for me.
Okay, 6 o'clock. And then if the Board of Health is meeting and they think their meeting will be done by 7, I would try to schedule it for 7 o'clock so Teresa could jump over if she needs to.
Okay.
But let's shoot for 6 o'clock for now. And then if it changes, I'll reach out to all of you or have Lori reach out to all of you to move that time to something a little bit later, but not too late.
Anything else, Fred?
Nope, that's it. That's it for me.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Yeah, second.
Roll call vote. Diane?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Anthony, and a yes.
All right. Thank you all for your patience in the setup tonight and the flexibility to move the meeting from last week to this week. I appreciate it. And especially thanks to you, Owen, for jumping in and hosting. It's a little bit easier with you here.
I hope they don't let you leave early, Fred, or on time.
I'm actually gonna, looks like be around a little bit. We'll see. At least for helping out with the interim. But all of you have a good night and happy 4th of July.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Night.
Good night.